Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Perello. I'm the Director of Career Services and Professional Development here at the School of Information Studies at Syracuse University. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have a lot to worry about when it comes to the job market, all right? Nothing I'm going to tell you in this presentation is so earth-shattering that you're going to walk away going, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous about getting my job or internship in data science. You're all very smart for taking advantage of the program that you're enrolled in here. So my thesis is pretty straightforward. You have plenty of employment opportunities coming your way. And so part of that is you are quoted the sexiest job of the 2020s. New York Times just recently wanted to put that to the test, and they did in fact find out that yes, it is still a very sexy job. Maybe not as sexy as ethics in data science. We'll talk about that a little later. Thank you. So my first slide actually shows a graph, which the folks online can see, but it's not the end of the world that you can't see it. It's essentially letting you know that everything is in good shape overall for graduates in 2022. All right, 2023, I'm sorry. So we have that employers plan to hire 14.7 more new college graduates from the class of 23 than from the class of 2022. That's from the National Association of Careers and Employers, NATES, which runs all of the data, all of the data that they collect for first destination of students graduating and going out into the real world and getting their first job. Now, this is primarily undergraduate students, but this translates well for master's candidates. And let me also say that grad students particularly tend to do well when there's an economic downturn. Now, I will say that although economists are predicting a recession in the next 2 years, I'm happy to say that employers plan on hiring. So that is great news for all of us here. And I also want to just put this in line with the way other careers are progressing throughout. Speak up, yeah. All right. So data science, the trajectory is very obvious, I will say for you, right? Employment in data science is where it's at right now. All right, so employment of data scientists is projected to grow 36% from 2021 to 2031, much faster than the average for all occupations. That's about 13,500 new data science jobs within 1 year, on average for the next 10 years. So what does that mean? So we're looking at 36% of growth rate over 10 years. Let's look at the average, right? Accountants and auditors, they are only predicted to grow at 6% over the next 10 years. Public high school teachers, my previous job, 5% over the next 10 years. So 36%, you better believe you are in a winning major when it comes to employment. All right, the 2022-2023 job market trends are giving the employee all of the power. There is a paradigm shift that's occurring thanks to what times were pre-pandemic, what was going on during the pandemic in terms of applicants and companies and organizations hiring, and then also sort of pseudo post-pandemic, where we're not really out of the pandemic yet, but we're all acting like we are, all right? We still can expect that paradigm shift to dig even more deeply. Let's look at the impact of COVID-19, all right? So the search for meaning. Now employees are looking for more meaning. What does that mean? They're looking for more happiness in their work, giving them more power and influence. The desire for flexibility. What boils down to flexibility? Employees want to be happy. They want to avoid burnout. They don't want to be beholden to a desk. They would like hybrid opportunities. This has led to what we call the great attrition. The great attrition where now companies are hemorrhaging employees, especially in the tech spaces, because the employees and the applicants have now leveraged more power thanks to organizations being more open and willing to take on applicants that are skilled and are demanding more money. So that's really good news for you. Yes, so employee expectations have gone up, leading to what we call now the great renegotiation, which means to you that you will have more power and more negotiation leverage with your skill sets, with data science. Those accountants, those auditors, those public high school teachers, maybe not so much. And so the great renegotiation is going to allow you, the applicant, to acquire more power and influence in what you're looking to do in the professional sphere. Let's talk more about this. Oh, hold on one more second. I'm sorry. So while employee expectations have gone up, the great renegotiation has shifted the playing field towards applicants, but don't let that fool you. So what I will say before we move on to the next slide is employers need to create a more personalized, flexible, dynamic, and inclusive system that delivers high performance results in a digital and data-enabled world. Right? That's for applicants across the board, but specifically for folks with your skill sets are needed in every organization and every industry for data privacy, data protection, data ethics, data freedom. And so that's why you are really assuming most of the power here, which is all good news. Let's talk more about this on the next slide. So emerging professionals, what's the impact here? One, employees must take charge of their own professional development and self-directed learning. This is because applicants are now gaining all the power and influence. They're being given that flexibility. Now you must prove it, right? Yes, they're going to pay you $100 a year. Yes, they will give you a 4-day work week. Yes, they'll let you hybrid. And when they ask you to come into the office for the day, they're going to treat you with free parking and they're going to give you a happy hour with beer and wine on tap in the office. Sounds great. But guess what? There's a price to pay for that. They're expecting you to commit and really give that organization its all. They don't want you to move on to another organization. So these are ways that they can get you to stay with them, but it's also going to want you to try to grow in your own professional development and learning. 2, companies cannot fill empty slots with workers like the ones they're replacing, right? So all of these workers have left organizations. They need to replace them. They're not going to find the same people to replace those jobs. What they're doing is they're streamlining those positions. They're maybe cutting them down a little bit more or hyper-focusing them on something else within the organization. That's going to give you a little bit of flexibility coming in, right? And so being focused on what you're learning in applied data science and the different areas and internship opportunities you're looking to take advantage of, that's only going to help them make a stronger case for you in the future. So don't let this fool you, right? You're like, oh, I have all the power here. Look at me. I've got an applied data science degree. I'm just automatically going to get this fabulous opportunity. Yes, you may, but you cannot sit complacent. You cannot get comfortable. You have to take advantage of self-learning, professional development opportunities, and these employers are willing to give it to you. 3, organizations are encouraging authorship and entrepreneurship. During the pandemic, 1/3 of the workforce left to create their own business and to create their own entrepreneurial venture. Well, employers took notice of this, and now what they want to do is offer you an incentive to author your own work and to be entrepreneurial in your own way. Just a few weeks ago, we took a group of undergraduate students to Boston, and we visited the Microsoft Garage. And so a bunch of the leadership there at the Microsoft Garage said, we noticed that a lot of our folks were leaving to start businesses. So instead of having them leave to start their own businesses, we want to empower them. Let's give them the tools. Let's give them a hackathon or something like that to take advantage of and try and solve problems with the company's oversight for those resources into it. So you're creating your own solutions with the backing of the company. Of course, the company gets to keep those rights, right? And then 4, the importance of cultivating soft skills. I know you are all probably sick of hearing us talk about soft skills because you're in data science, right? That's the hard skills that matter. Not necessarily. Yes, hard skills are important, but soft skills are what's going to earn you the position. That's what's going to get you to the application process. It's what's going to make you become a vibrant employee within that organization. And we'll talk more about soft skills in a minute. Yes, thank you. So soft skills, I'm a little biased. I come from the world of communication. You may not know that from hearing me right now, but I do come from the world of communication. And so communication, hands down, #1 skill set you have to have. And that to me is just supersedes any other skill, right? Because communication is the essence of problem solving, right? How can you solve a problem without communication? And then you'll notice some of the other elements of soft skills are just branches of communication. curiosity, inquisitiveness, right? Your ability to try and find solutions or find a question to generate solutions. Business acumen, a lot of that turns into business culture, right? So being able to fit into a particular organization culture or organization environment, that's going to be important for you, because if you don't fit that business culture, it's not going to work, right? There's going to be a mismatch between you and client services or you and the product. Storytelling. I'm hoping you heard a lot about storytelling today. You cannot be an effective data professional without the ability to share information on that data, whether it's culminating the data, extracting the data, interpreting the data, providing data to diverse audiences. You must know how to tell a story. I highly recommend you join Toastmasters, or perhaps you take advantage of some electives if you can in the iSchool, or communication and rhetorical studies. I don't want to leave them out. Critical thinking, that's a must. I don't need to go into that. Product understanding, which I thought more as understanding accessibility and understanding what diverse audiences and clients are looking for. And team player, right? Nobody wants to work with someone who's hard to get along with, right? Like that's just, it's not fun. In this day and age, we should be self-aware enough to be able to play to diverse audiences. That's a challenging skill, right? I like to call myself a team player and very collaborative, but there are people I don't want to work with sometimes. I want to work with everyone in here, but sorry. So being a team player, collaborative, diverse, those are all soft skills necessary too. Okay, yeah, top 5. I have a death by PowerPoint slide that I'm glad that only the online folks are able to look at. I'm not going to dwell on this, but the top 5 data science roles for 2023 include data scientists, which has an average salary of $102,000. Data architect, which has an average salary of $123,347. A business intelligence developer, which has an average salary of $91,000 and some change. Data engineer, $93,000 and some change. And then finally, data analyst, $97,000 and some change. I want to focus on data analyst because that's often a very fabulous next step for someone who's graduating with a master's degree. Now, data engineer, data architect, BI developer, those are all domains that you certainly can go into right out of grad school from our programs. It's just how much experience you have in those certain areas. Some of you came to Syracuse University with tons of work experience, right, in certain engineering areas. That's going to help you lead to, let's say, a more direct pipeline to data architect or data engineer. But don't ever discount yourself. And by the way, let me also say before we move on to the next slide, a lot of these human resources departments, they do not know how to classify these job and internship descriptions. So the human resources team may not be in contact with the data teams that, the data teams may say, oh yeah, we're looking for a data engineer. The HR team may not work with the data team to come up with that posting. And so often these HR, you see a job description or an internship description that says data architect, that's not what they're asking for. They're looking for data analyst. So my tip, always look at the job and internship description. Thank you. All right, I do have some internship stats. It's not as wonderful without the slides, but I'll read them anyway. So when I committed to this talk, I wanted to do more with internships, and I got some fabulous data according to Zipia. So just from the summer of 2022, close to 10,000 data science interns were employed here in the United States. Now, those are folks who are registered for credit. Not everyone out there registers for credit and is formal internship. This number may sound good, but I don't think it is. 53.2% of data science interns are men, right? And I know the men in here are like, yeah, 53, that's good. We're getting closer to equality. But to the women and to other folks in here, 53% is still way too harsh of a mismatch, right? We need to equal the playing field when it comes to employment in data science and tech fields. New York was the most popular spot for data science interns, but I will say that $36 was the average high, the highest average salary, and the highest salary was out of Newark, Delaware. When I thought about that, I realized that a lot of our credit card companies and a lot of financial firms are located in the state of Delaware. And finally, 53% are more likely to work at public companies than private companies. And when you think about that, that makes sense too, because of the size of our federal, state, and local governments that employ the public institutions or employ for public institutions. So you're thinking of maybe going into moving down to Washington, D.C. or working in the public domain, you're going to be in good spirits. By the way, I want to mention to my data students in here, because you're going to ask, this data was extracted from 30 million profiles and estimated statistics for data science interns, and it was verified against the Bureau of Labor Statistics. There, you know my data is good, right? Thank you. All right, ethics. The next career frontier. So data ethicist does not sound sexy, but ethics in data science does sound sexy. And we have to think of ethics as being the next big frontier of data, right? Data science and the data professional field. So most organizations do want ethical professionals. Notice I put most. I'm not gonna name any, but you probably took great case studies in your classes to back this up. Emerging data science professionals must have a grasp on ethics. The reason for that is simple, folks. You're working with people's personal, private information. You're working on interpreting information for large organizations that have social, political, and economic impacts. Huge, right? So what I suggest is come up with ways that you can demonstrate to future employers that you understand ethics in data science. I'm not saying you have to take a course in it. What I'm saying is develop some sort of philosophy on ethics in data science and data analytics that makes you look like you are an ethical professional, or you're like at least looking like you're an ethical professional for that. How do you showcase this on your resume or in a cover letter? Have you talked about ethics in any projects that you've worked on? Have you performed any projects in ethics? That's going to be something that you may want to showcase on your resume. But more than anything, develop an ethic philosophy on data ethics. So when you're in interviews and they ask you about ethics, you're not like, what, ethics? Because we need data professionals that are ethical at decision making, that understand the nuances of privacy and confidentiality. I love that. Good intentions, like good. That's not great intentions, but good intentions, like the bar is really low there. All right, so that's something you want to make sure you have too. Data ownership for obvious reasons and transparency as well. Where did you get that data? Did you leave anything out of that data, right? Something that you should all be questioning. Awesome, thank you. So final takeaways. This is sort of like my big, this is the slide that really gets you thinking, right? So the career outlook for 2023 graduates in data science looks strong with over 13,000 new jobs emerging next year. So hold tight, hopefully there'll be more. If there is no recession, and even if there is a recession, students in information management technology can do pretty well. While there is a great renegotiation occurring, do not get arrogant. Do not sit complacent. Don't get too comfortable. Right? We often grow and can mature professionally when we're very uncomfortable. Right? Like, oh my God, the power went out during my empower yourself with new skills and seeking out new learning opportunities. So important to work on your self-concept, right? And areas that you need help in. Right. We know what areas we need help in. People will let us know. Work on those, right? While hard skills are important, soft skills are what's going to make you stand out, right? Thinking about getting through that interview process, you're gonna need to demonstrate soft skills. Information providing, persuasion, appeal to your most critical audience. And then finally, immerse yourself in the art and science, ethics, articulate ways in which you have applied ethics and we've developed a philosophy or nuance for ethics. I know ethics is sexy, everyone. Okay. So folks, that's my presentation for today. I hope I didn't bore you, but I will certainly take some questions if you have questions. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, so I would use a case study. So think about how social media, social data from social media is used in both good ways and not so good ways. What are ways that Meta could work differently to ensure privacy rights and to ensure that people's data is not being used in inappropriate or inauthentic ways? That is a great springboard for you to be like, yeah, I saw what Meta did last week and I didn't like what Zuckerberg. Who's the latest one? Who's
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, thank you. That's right. I was like, one of them was just in the news. Come on, I'm sure Zuckerberg will do something different. So for you, it really doesn't have to be an earth-shattering, a Bible or Torah of stories about your philosophy and ethics. But I would like you to take something that matters to you and your data privacy and use that as a way to articulate your own narrative for an ethics philosophy. Yeah, good question. You can tell I'm not a data science person, right? I'm like, Facebook. Going there. Other questions? Yes.
My name is Wu. I have a question about the jobs of the ethics applying. I have worked with experience about the data authorization. How to get users agreement to share the some information. And how have the jobs about the ethics applying?
So that's a great question. I checked a few weeks ago when I was doing my research on this. I checked for jobs on LinkedIn and on Handshake that were data ethicists. Not really there. Not really there yet, right? I mean, it's where we sort of need that in a pretty empowering way, but we're not going to get there unless the cohort of data scientists and data professionals really embody that ethical standard, right? So you have a background in that. And let me also say the public is just so uninformed on what data agreements are, right? Like how many of you, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, sure. No, don't track me. Well, fine, just while I'm using the app, right? Like what is that? So I think there's got to be an educational movement, not just on the private domain, companies and corporations to really promote having data ethicists in their organizations, but also like the public needs to get in on this too. There needs to be some sort of public service announcement that inform the public, especially Americans, on privacy, data privacy and privacy rights, and sort of dumbing it down in a way so that we all understand. But as of right now, not many jobs in data ethics, but who's to say in a year or two when you're graduating, that may not be a thing. Or that maybe. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you.
Chris, you have a question from a virtual student. They're just asking, what do you think employers look for entry-level positions when it comes to data science positions?
They definitely want you to have some foundation of coding. There needs to be something, right? Like, I mean, whether it was a project, whether it was a Coursera, lynda.com, a personal thing you worked on, they want some sort of foundation in that. And I know that's not, you don't want to hear that. I know that that's not what everyone wants to do, but having the understanding of that is certainly helpful. SQL, not so much. I think that depends, I would say. And then understanding too data infrastructures on how organizations are set up. I think going back to case studies that you're doing in your courses, that's especially going to help in interviews. And I have to say, Excel certification, I know that sounds like, oh, Excel, that's so 1994. The truth is, if you are Excel certified, that's immediately going to put you in a different bucket of credibility. And I know that sounds kind of weird because it's Excel, but that's so true. So those are the hard skills I would mention. Yeah. Yes.
What are some of the questions that you asked before that help us understand more about the role, not just about job description, but more in terms of stand out and understanding the role knowledge?
One of the best questions you can ask. So she was asking what at the end of interviews when you're supposed to ask questions, What's a good question to ask to learn more about the role and learn more about the organization and the scope of the role and basically try.
We want to know more about the job, through the job description. What's something that we can ask that we want to know more about in terms of like
Yes. So what can you ask to get more of perspective of what's going on inside the department or organization? One of the best questions you can ask at the end of the interview is, why is this role available? Who had this role before me? Where did they go? Did they leave here on a bad note? Did they get promoted? That's one of the best questions because it reveals a lot. And you're going to see their nonverbal cues go, oh, they're asking why this person left. It's a great question to ask because you may get some entirely authentic, honest answers that'll make you go, all right, I know now, I know that I don't want to join this organization. For the last 8 people, they've just been fired or they've left because of something organizationally that's wrong. You'll also know when they are being deceptive. Like if they start looking at each other and they're like, oh, this question, and they hedge a little bit, you know that that's a red flag. So that's the best question you can ask. I will say though, and I'm glad you caught me there, you don't want to ask more about the scope of the role because they want you to already have done that research. So I would say that's the best question to ask because that will take up a good amount of time about that. But also, where do you see this person going once they're hired? Where do you envision them going and moving on from here? You know, how long does that take? I think that shows that you are a visionary and it shows that you are trying to see what's going on organizationally and where they see that position going.